So Subaru is pulling its manufacturing out of the United States because of tariffs. And before you guys say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it kind of is because it's thousands of American jobs. What you may or may not know is that Subaru has a factory, a manufacturing facility here in the United States where they build several cars, one of which is the Outback. Now, the vast majority of their sales is the Outback, and 24% of those sales go to Canada. Well, we produce the cars that go to Canada. So basically what they're saying is that we're going to end this. We're going to move manufacturing, because we already have facilities there, to Japan, because it makes more financial sense for us to do that versus trying to deal with these tariffs, which are all over the place at any given time. In addition to that, Subaru also said that they were going to start reducing their place in the US market and bring imports down to about 10%, which is going to cost, obviously, manufacturing jobs, service jobs, sales jobs, dealerships, all that kind of stuff. So kind of a big deal.
This is hilarious.
Now, the last thing I'll share with you is that in addition to the Outback, Subaru was planning on starting manufacturing of the Forester in the US, and they've not commented on whether or not that's going to continue happening, but basically what's being alluded to is that we will probably lose the production of the Forester as well, and that might go back to Japan or Canada. As a lot of y'all know, I don't do a whole lot of content on the things that President Trump does, but when it comes to the cars, I said that I will continue keeping you guys updated on that because I'm a car guy through and through, and that's important to me. Definitely make sure to hit that follow button if you don't already, and drop your thoughts about Subaru pulling out, moving manufacturing back to Japan over the 25% tariffs.
So unfortunately, another blow for the US auto industry. Subaru are going to start shifting operations away from Indiana and start putting them back into Japan. Specifically, this is for the 2026 models that are destined for Canada. And Subaru have found out that it's actually cheaper because of tariffs to make the cars actually in Japan and then ship them to Canada than it would be from them to make them in Indiana and then ship them to Canada. The reason for this is because Japan and Canada have a tariff-free arrangement. We also have a free trade agreement with Japan, and so it's actually cheaper for them to do that. Unfortunately, this is going to mean a 16% reduction of production in vehicles at the Indiana plant. This information comes from, hopefully I say this right, Tomohiro Kabuta, who is the CEO of Subaru. Folks, my name is Nick. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'd love you to give me a follow.
Subaru is starting to get desperate and they can't sell new cars. Earlier today, I got this email from Subaru, and here are all the vehicles they're asking for help getting more sales for this month. You can see the BRZ Crosstrek Hybrid and the WRX are the only vehicles that they really don't need help selling. So I started to do a little bit of research back on CarEdge.com, and this is the Subaru Outback in the Philadelphia area, $41,759 MSRP. You can see the invoice price right there, $38,966. What I was most interested in was the market day supply, which is 131 days. 86 of this vehicle have sold in the last 45 days, yet there are 251 for sale right now in Philly. For those of you that don't know, manufacturers typically want a day's supply somewhere between 60 and 90 days, and when it goes above that, that's when the desperation starts to kick in. Now, that email I showed you before said the Crosstrek Hybrid, they don't need help selling, but what about the normal Crosstrek? Again, this is for Philadelphia. There's a 102-day supply. 852 have sold in the last 45 days, yet there are almost 2,000 actively for sale within 100 miles of Philly. And last but not least, the Subaru Legacy. You can see this one's been on this dealer's lot for 189 days. 124 days supply means there's some desperation. And Subaru's stepping up. There's 2.81% financing for the lease right now. So yeah, if you're in the market to buy a new car, check out Subaru. It seems like there's a little bit of desperation, which could lead to a good deal. And of course, go to CarEdge.com and search for your Subaru there.
Well, this has just come in 5 minutes ago. Subaru has announced it's shutting down its American production facilities and laying off hundreds of workers. The automaker says the rising costs and import tariffs have made it impossible to keep operations running in USA. The 25% tariffs on foreign-made vehicles have pushed production costs all the way through the roof for companies like Subaru. And I want you to know that Subaru has moved its manufacturing back to Japan, and experts warned us about this. This is just the first of the many automotive companies that are going to be closing business in America.
Hey, it's Joe from Georgia. So the experts are warning that vehicle production in America as well as around the world could shut down here within a few weeks because there's a shortage of magnets, and it takes rare earth minerals to produce those magnets. Well, guess what country has 90% of those magnets production capacity? It's China, and we have no agreement with them on this rare earth minerals. So China, like I said, has 90% of this rare earth. And what it does, these magnets go into the production of transmissions, motors, brakes, cameras, lights, almost every part of a car, to even include the seatbelts. So they're not seeing much progress with China on getting this done. And the heads of General Motors, Toyota, Hyundai, Volkswagen, and others, they have sent a letter of warning to the President of the United States, warning them that this is a dire outlook if a deal's not made. The Alliance for Automotive Information is the one who's putting this information out. So they are meeting in Geneva to try to iron these things out, but we could be within just a couple of weeks of seeing shutdowns in manufacturing of U.S. automobiles as well as other automobiles around the world. We're trying to increase manufacturing, not take it back.
Canada. So that is rough for the American economy right now. We've got a lot of layoffs this week. We heard Nike's doing layoffs this week. Coca-Cola's doing layoffs this week. Hudson's Bay, which is in Canada, did 90% layoffs. That pretty much went under. There's a lot of businesses that are really struggling with the model right now. We even heard Coca-Cola this week announce that they are.
I keep hearing people say that Subaru's Indiana assembly plant is closing, that Subaru is moving production from the United States to Japan, and that's not true. What's actually happening is Subaru is closing down the legacy line. The legacy model of cars is no longer being sold at all because of an increasing demand for SUVs, particularly in the United States. And the Outback line, well, the Outback line is being shifted a little bit. About 10% of all Outbacks produced at the Indiana factory were exported to Canada. Those exports are now being shifted to Japan because it's cheaper for Japan to shift the Outback production line to Japan and then pay import tariff costs to Canada than it is to manufacture them in the United States with all of the tariff fees associated and then export them to Canada. So that plan is because of the tariffs. But even though they're losing portion of their Outback production, about 10%, and they're losing the legacy line, Subaru had already planned to bring all Forester SUVs and Forester hybrid model production to the Indiana assembly factory. So Subaru is going to remove about 50,000 vehicles every month or every year from production in Indiana, but they're adding the Forester line, which will add about 170,000 vehicles just to the United States, as that's the number of Subarus that or Foresters that Subaru delivered last year. So it looks like, if you just read the headline, that Subaru's leaving Indiana, but what's actually happening is they're canceling an already legacy program that they had already planned to cancel in the legacy. They're moving portion of the Outback production back to Japan because it's cheaper for them, and they're moving the Forester, which overwhelmingly sells only in the United States, to the United States to save money.
The Subaru Legacy,
saddest news story of the week,
is being canceled a year from now. Does anyone care?
No.
Okay.
No.
Next news story. No,
go back. When was the last time you saw a Legacy? I saw one last week, and it was notable because I saw one.
They don't enter my conscience. I think if you wanted to commit a crime, and that would be the car to use because it's so anonymous.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't notice it regardless, but
we'll be honest, I didn't really know exactly what the current Legacy looked like, but this is what it looks like apparently. And now it's gone.
Nobody will miss it.
So I have a Subaru Outback, and I've only had it for about 2 years now. I bought it just before I moved down to Texas from Washington State. Now, I've had difficulty getting a job in Texas because I'm a single mother, and being able to get to my daughter in time with all the traffic going on around here, it just doesn't cut it for me to have a normal person job and make sure that my daughter is picked up after school. So I have my own company, link in the bio, and I am just starting out. So it's going to not make me super profitable until I've been established, right? So the center console is going beep, boop, beep, boop after my car accident. Now, it is very distracting. It is something that isn't great for somebody with autism and overload of sensory stuff. It's very distracting. It can be very dangerous. They quoted me about $2,000 to replace the whole thing. I asked if I could replace it myself. How much would the raw parts cost? I built my own computers previously. Like, I can figure this out. Not a big deal. And they're like, no, you need to be a certified technician. Blah 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 blah. Which I think is a load of crap. But you know, mechanics, correct me if I'm wrong in here. I'm going to be looking for other outside quotes though. Anyways, on top of that, I apparently have a really bad leak. Oil leak that I didn't have before it was taken into the collision place, and that's going to cost me about $2,000 to also fix, which that in of itself, like, I could diagnose that. That's not a big deal. All you do is like a little pressure in there to see where it bubbles up, and then you seal that spot with a little sealant, or you change the seal itself if there's a seal replaceable spot right there. That's not $2,000. I've worked on cars before. Like this, like when you grow up poor, you don't have the option of not knowing things. And that's why I know a lot of things, because I grew up very poor. I already had to buy new tires and get the brakes replaced. And that cost me about $2,000 as well. So I feel like whatever service that they throw out there, they're like, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. That's like their number that they quote. I've only had this car for 2 years. 2 years. And all of this is going wrong. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, that's $6,000. $6,000 they're expecting me to pay within 1 calendar year for this car, and the year's not done yet. I've never had a car that has been this bad. Ever. I'm 38. The Subaru, I would never recommend Subarus. This is a lot. This is a lot going wrong with one car, and it is expensive. Don't get Subarus. They are a money pit. And they drag and hoard and gatekeep your ability to fix things yourself. If that is something that I can't do on my own, I think that's BS. I should be able to do it just fine. I build my own computers, I can do this.
Subaru has announced that it is leaving production facilities in the United States, closing them all up, laying off the employees, and moving to Japan. And when they were citing the reason that they were doing this, they said they were pulling out of the United States due to high production cost and moving to a more affordable option. It was actually cheaper for them to go make the cars in Japan and then ship them back to us and to Canada. So that is rough for the American economy right now. We've got a lot of layoffs this week. We heard Nike's doing layoffs this week. Coca-Cola's doing layoffs this week. Hudson's Bay, which is in Canada, did 90% layoffs. That pretty much went under. There's a lot of businesses that are really struggling with the model right now. We even heard Coca-Cola this week announce that they are going to be outsourcing their bottling production. Don't quite know what that looks like yet. But Google also announced last week that it is doing a 35% layoff of all middle managers. So you can imagine how big that is and how many folks that is going to affect. So there's going to be a lot of people applying in the workplace right now, probably a lot of very qualified people, sir. So guys, let me know. What do you think? Why are all the layoffs?
So yesterday we were talking about a recession, and something came out that's pretty alarming. I was talking about how our shop is, for the majority of the time, empty. We don't have that much work coming in. I mean, we're decent. We're not horrible. But we have times where it's literally so slow, there's nothing to do. To the point where you've cleaned everything, you've taken all the trash out, you've done everything you possibly can, and there's still nothing to do. As you can see behind me, we got a couple cars in the bay today. Waiting on some parts for this one. The other guy's working on this one. Did a water pump today. Did a couple other things. But I was getting a lot of people saying yesterday that their shops are 2 to 3 weeks out. It's a location issue. It's a shop issue. You guys must not do good work. Yada, yada, yada. The list goes on and on. But the Ford CEO actually gave an interview talking about how there's a shortage of technicians in Ford dealerships.
2 weeks. Average wait is 2 weeks. Not because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics.
We're pretty much fully stacked here. We have 3 full-timers, myself included. We're only a 5-bay shop, so it's not like we can take up that much work anyway. So when we have work rolling in, we can basically take it immediately. We're not really booked out for weeks and weeks and weeks. So if you're working for a shop that only has a few technicians, and it's a bigger shop, and you guys are used to taking maybe 5 cars at one time, of course you're going to be backed up for weeks and weeks and weeks. But there's a technician shortage in this country. Companies don't want to hire people because people aren't spending money. People come in just for their oil changes. They don't want to get anything else. And when it comes down to it, people just don't have money. The economy's bad right now, and I do think that we are in a recession. You can make excuses as to why our shop is slow, but the fact of the matter is our economy is really fucking bad right now. And we're not the only slow shop in our area. There's a guy I'm friends with on here. He's about 30 minutes southwest of us, and he's slow too, and he's in a busy area, the Route 130 corridor. You know, back in the day, my grandpa used to take his truck to a shop. It was called Ed and Ben Service Center. And he had one technician working there. So he was backed up for like a month. You couldn't get your truck in there for like a month. So if you think about it, the Ford CEO is saying that there's a shortage of technicians. And that's a fact. If you look it up, there is a shortage of automotive technicians out there right now. A lot of people either don't want to be auto technicians or they can't get a job as an auto technician. Some places don't pay enough and some places won't even hire you. Our economy is that fucking bad. But it's our shop, right? Our shop doesn't do good work. When I know that we do. But I, for a fact, know that we do good work because I pay attention to your vehicle as if it were my own. And that's just the way I do things.
So Subaru is pulling out of the United States. They said, we're done. All plans to build new plants have been canceled. They're going to leave about 10% of their production here. And they're all leaving the United States. They said the tariff war is just too much and too high of a cost for them to deal with this anymore. And they're done. So no more Subaru in the United States.
A lot of the cars that's coming out right now is way overpriced. And these companies, they know that already. So don't be surprised the end of this year and the beginning of next year, they're going to be doing a lot of sign here. We'll give you 3 months off before your first payment. We'll give you 0 ARP. I'm going to tell you, no matter if your credit is good, bad, come on down. We'll sign you up. And it's crazy because they rather do this than bring the car down to the right price where it's affordable and it's not price gouging. And if you got bad credit and you got the money to spend on these marked up cars, whoop-de-doo, then do it. Do it by all means. If you're an average person looking to buy one of the newer vehicles and stuff like that, just wait it out. Wait till all of this stuff because it's going to go down and they're going to be pushing cars out there for half the price because this is just the beginning. People are not buying cars and they know this. That's why they're trying to get you in the door. But they want to keep that main mark sticker price without letting you leave that store.
So due to high tariffs and tariff-infested economy in the U.S., Subaru has decided that they're closing down all their manufacturing plants here in the U.S. and moving it back to Japan. You heard it. How do we bring manufacturing back to America? High tariffs, right? Yes, how do we create more jobs to make it impossible for manufacturing to operate in our economy? Correct? Yes, so Subaru is taking it all the way back to Japan and they'll sell us the cars. That's how we improve the economy. And you remember that Hyundai plant? Yeah, that deal with South Korea will never materialize because they're closing it down. And that's how we bring jobs in this country. And then we are screaming hate speech at a fascist's memorial service. America is great, y'all. We are great. Yeah.
Subaru is leaving the United States due to high production costs and closing down all of their manufacturers here and moving to Japan because it's more affordable. Are we surprised by this? No, we're not surprised. That is actually pretty rough for the American economy this week because that is going to leave a lot of Americans without jobs because people that work at Subaru are currently being laid off. In addition to Subaru doing layoffs, Coca-Cola, that is based in Atlanta, Georgia, is also doing layoffs. Shall we add on Coca-Cola as well and Google? Google has been laying off some of their team, some of their staff since last week. And Coca-Cola is also doing massive layoffs and also seeking outsourcing for the production of their bottles. And y'all can thank who? The Orange Man for this.
Happy Trade War Day, everybody. Last night, Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada and China and Mexico went into effect. And today, they're retaliating. China and Canada have already announced what they're doing. President of Mexico says her announcement will come later today. And even before the President of Mexico announces what it is, this is what's happened as a result. Is Making America Great for y'all yet? But what might their retaliatory tariffs actually affect? Fresh produce, cars and car parts, and electronics, including phones and computers, are among the top goods the U.S. imports from Mexico, Canada, and China that will now face tariffs between 20 and 25%. If it costs more to bring the item here, guess who's going to pay for that? Not Canada, not China, not Mexico, you, the American consumer. Canada's our ally, our closest ally to the north. And these tariffs literally violate the trade agreement we have with Canada that was set up by Donald Trump during his last administration. He is violating his own trade agreement with Canada. And it's not just the stuff coming from Canada that's going to be tariffed and then we're going to pay more. It's also going to affect American companies who ship stuff to Canada, as you can hear from Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario.
I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchase over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. Then we're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for them, but it's principle. If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. And I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain.
We need to feel the pain at the grocery store, at the gas pump, on car lots, when we're trying to get new computers or phones. And don't forget why we're doing these tariffs. The Trump administration said the tariffs were necessary to stem the flow of fentanyl into the United States. What the actual fuck? While President Trump gave both Canada and Mexico ample opportunity to curb the dangerous cartel activity and influx of lethal drugs flowing into our country, they have failed to adequately address the situation, according to a statement released by the White House shortly before the tariffs took effect. Cool. You're going to pay a shit ton for produce and gas. And this is not the solution to fentanyl. Fentanyl's a problem. Don't get me wrong. This ain't doing shit. For everyone who voted for Donald Trump because you said the price of things are just too expensive, we need to get our economy back on track. Look what thou hath wrought. But honestly, should we even be surprised? As Brian Tyler Cohen put in a post this morning, it's almost as if the economy is being run by a guy who bankrupted 4 casinos. You know those businesses that basically just print money because they're preying on people who have a crippling addiction? This guy has no idea what a gallon of milk costs, and he was amazed by the concept of grocery stores. And you thought he was going to be the one to make all that better for you. Are you pissed off yet? You should be. Would you like to do something about it? Here's something that you could do. You could go to the link in my bio. You see this one? Reject Trump's tariffs that raise prices and hurt working families. If you click that, it opens this petition that when you sign it, is then put in front of elected officials. Democrats, Republicans, everybody. Thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures from their constituents being put in front of them saying, like, the American people are super pissed off about this. Matters. It matters to them. Change.org petition that no one's ever going to see doesn't matter. One that's going to be actively put in front of them and say, hey, this is how you get not reelected. Matters to them. Take like 30 seconds to sign this, please. Encourage others to sign it. Let's show them that we will not accept this.
I have a family friend who has had a 35, 40-year business, I believe, here in America, in the Americas, and he's having to shut it down because of these tariffs with China. Patriots, check in. This is Secret Service Sam. President of TikTok, the #1 comedy journalist here in the interwebs. And, you know, this is a personal one, a personal story. It's just to tell you, it's not just the small businesses and the everyday person who will have to pay a little bit more. Thank you. Cookie's upset about these tariffs even. But this is somebody who drives around Bentleys, Porsches, Alfa Romeos, always has had the nicest, the watches, the Rolexes, the Bon Boutiques, the Beaka Wooks, all of it. Cookie is so into this. Somebody who is a multi-millionaire. Okay, he's going to be fine. I'm not telling you guys to worry about that. The retirement's fine. The point is, he's had a successful importing company. They probably everything, their products are in your home, put it that way. And you use these products, but guess what? They're made in China. All of the manufacturing, the molding, everything is made in China. It's been set up that way for 40 years. So all of a sudden, look at this, the light. Oh, okay, enough, Sam. My point is, after 40 years in business, he's having to close his doors because he can't make any money with these tariffs. Patriots, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Secret Service Sam out. Samson for president of TikTok.
Car manufacturers can't make up their minds, guys. Toyota is pushing back into EVs. Now, EVs for the last several years for Toyota have been the bottom of the barrel thing that they've focused on. They've really been concentrating on hybrids. And now they've got this Kentucky plant that's going to spearhead a major push back into EVs for Toyota. Now, the reason that this is interesting is that the problem with EVs has never been fixed for Americans. And what I mean by that is that the problem is that the charging stations, there's way too few of them. They're way too far between, and they take way too long to charge people's cars. And some of them are for specific manufacturers charging of their cars only. So when you get to that and you get to the fact that people can get gas everywhere very quickly, and they've got to get to an EV charging station, and maybe there's a couple of them at a business's parking lot or at a mall that are out and about, but other than that, you're going to have to charge it at home. It makes it massively inconvenient for people. And let's just face it, there's just not a giant investment from any of these EV manufacturers to build out huge swaths of charging stations for people. There aren't, because it's kind of everybody else's responsibility. Tesla was really doing it for a while, but they slowed way down on it now. Now they're focusing on the EV semis that they've got coming out that also charge with solar panels on the top. So that's another thing entirely. But for real, when you look at this, you're like, okay, if we're going to have a push back into EV guys, then you know, in Toyota and Lexus and all this kind of stuff, where are people going to charge these? Are you guys going to make the charging stations faster? You're going to build way more of them? You're just going to have them everywhere? Because right now there's just not the availability, which is why the EV sales have tanked in the United States the last couple of years. So whenever I see a story like this that came out, this one's by Thomas Goodwin, it's like, there's all this new stuff happening. They want to make the RAV4 and the Land Cruiser and all these have EV support, but it's not stood up anywhere in the country to do this. So you can make all these cars, guys, but until you put the charging stations out there and make them better, we're just not going to buy a bunch more EVs. That's why we're buying hybrids. And so, you know, what do you guys think? Are you guys going to go out and buy an EV right now until they fix this problem? Because I'm not. I'm not searching around for a charging station way out somewhere and then sitting around for 45 minutes for my car to charge. I'm not doing it. Are you?
Well, the market always tends to ignore a shutdown. It may have an initial negative reaction, but then it kind of pushes it aside because the shutdown is not going to price stocks in the long term. I think investors, once again, look through it and they look at what the data is, whether it's economic data, individual company data, you know, kind of regulatory policy data. They look right through it. So I was for one to say, I don't think it's going to last very long, nor do I think investors are going to pay much attention to it at all.
More bad news. I really am. Every time this administration does something to distract the world, like the latest being this Tylenol joke, something else is happening they don't want us to know. And the research from Money Talk News, the economists from Money Talk News have just released their very dire economic data. So Doge laid off 287,000 people. Okay. American companies have already in 2025 announced 744,308 job layoffs. Okay. Just in the first half of 2025, these are the highest layoffs since the pandemic. Major sectors hit include retail, technology, media, and nonprofits. Overall, there's been a
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.